The Marlins went 7-6 this season against the Phillies, but we welcome on here your manager of the Miami Marlins, Skip Schumaker. Now, Skip, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And I think he's muted. Is he not muted? Good start here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There we go.
There we go.
Skip, I guess we'll first start with this. Been here as a player. Now you're here as a manager. What's the hope that you can take away as your playing days, and now you can sort of apply, educate, teach for moments like this?
I think we've been talking about this situation from day one of spring training is you prepare for this moment. So hopefully nothing creeps up on you during a really intense game because we have talked about different situations and they're teaching moments for 162. For 180 or 190 if you include spring training. So we're hoping that nothing is going to sneak up on us as far as like the game situation stuff. Hoping nothing sneaks up on me as a rookie manager. But I think the environment is as intense as you're going to find in Philly, which makes it fun. It was my favorite place to play in the postseason. And hopefully we have some success here.
You got peppered with questions on the holiday stuff, which is really cool. Before I throw it to these guys, I do want to just ask you, your message the entire season was just win today. Where did you learn that, and why do you think it worked with this group?
I learned it from Tony La Russa. I learned a lot from Tony. And the most important part of your day was to win today, whatever that meant. So take care of your family at home. And then when you get to the yard, you're prepping to win today, learn from yesterday, and figure out how to win today. And I think when you do that, you're not chasing numbers. You're not looking at the scoreboard. And you're constantly getting better. And I think that's been the message. And I think, he said that for years. And then in 2011, we were down 10 games, starting, I think, September 1st,
right.
10 games out of it, and ended up getting in. And we had to take it day by day. You can't say win 10 in a row. It's an impossible task to think about. And so when you go day to day, then it's more feasible to do something like that.
And Skip, you mentioned the hostile type of environment that you find, especially here at Citizens Bank Park. Well, you guys got a little taste of that just over a month ago. How do you think the intense series that you guys finished here during the regular season, the way that series go, maybe prepare the guys for coming into game one here, the wild card, if at all?
Yeah, they know they can do it. I think that's been the message, throughout the years, the whole year of like these hostile environments, big crowds, big situations. You don't know if you can do it unless you've been there before and succeed at it. And if you don't succeed in those big situations, why not? And then you learn from it. And a lot of those guys, I remember Sanchez hitting a huge home run, Soler pinch hit home run. I mean, there's a lot of big moments in this stadium this year that these guys have come through and against a really tough team that was, in the World Series last year. So I think watching these guys grow and know that they can actually do it in big situations is a big deal in big crowds. And I think it's going to get louder than it was during the regular season. So being able to listen to your breathing and not get too hyped up is going to be a big key for a lot of these guys.
I think you always hear you don't know what you don't know, and there's a lot of guys that don't know what this is going to be like come 8:08 tomorrow night when the first pitch is thrown. You've been here. You've played in bigger games. You probably haven't managed a bigger game, obviously, but can you explain to us the postseason from the regular season and the intensity that you feel from the first pitch of the ball game?
Yeah, I would tell you that when I was my first postseason, actually as a player, you lean on the other players that have been through it. There's staff, and that's always great. But the guys like Yuli and Soli, and there's some guys that have been through bigger situations and they're about to get in, and then they can lean on those guys for advice. The game is the game. You have to remember it's the same game. Yes, it's louder. There's more cameras. There's more media. All that is real. However, it's still the same game. And I think that's really the message is like, you come to the stadium right now today and you see all these cameras and there's a million people want to get your takes on different situations. And that's all part of it, and that's great. But when the actual game starts, it's just the game. And I think that's the biggest key that I had when I came in here against, Doc Holliday, Game 5, and then in Game 7 of a World Series, driving into the ballpark. you're like, oh my gosh, it's Game 7. If I mess this thing up, it's going to be on TV forever. And that's like
pressure.
I mean, that's the thoughts that you got to get out of your mind of like, the what ifs, and so I think that's the biggest key.
What do you focus on then to keep those thoughts out of your mind? Because we're all human, right? These guys are human. A lot of the guys have never been in the position before. I know we talk about this day in and day out, but where do you focus your attention to kind of make the moment not as big as it really is?
You always fall back on your preparation, always. And so I think that happened in spring training. Our staff never stopped prepping these guys from day one, whether we were 14 games up or whether we were on this huge losing streak and ended up being under 500 for a couple days. Our message has never been we did have a different message, and our prep stayed consistent. That's going to be the same thing when we prep these guys for Wheeler tomorrow. It's going to be the exact same. We're not going to show any panic or any more pressure than that they're already going to put on themselves. You feel different when you're prepared for a test than when there's a pop quiz, right? And I think that's been the message for our whole staff, from our whole staff the whole year, and there's not going to be anything different tomorrow.
Marlins manager Skip Schumaker with us now in a special edition of the Inside Corner. Steven Strom, Kyle Seeloff, Kelly Sacco. Skip, I want to talk about the second half because it was a difficult start, and you guys go on this run in September with 17 wins. But during that stretch, what do you think you learned the most about your team and the most about what you learned about being a manager in that tough stretch?
Everybody talked about it being the toughest schedule or remaining schedule of anybody trying to get to the postseason. And for me, like, if we wanted to get to where we wanted to get to, you had to go through them eventually anyway. Right. The fact that we got through them and we were probably going to face them in a postseason showed the guys that we're good enough to beat those guys. And we can compete against anybody. We beat them. If we face them, if we get in and we face them, we know we can win. So that's why you just got to get in the tournament. Everybody has a chance now. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Whoever we played, we have beat before. They've beat us. We beat them. That's just what it is. Nobody's been swept by someone else in the postseason, right? Like, you have beat somebody before. So I think that's been the best part of going into a postseason of like, all right, we've played these guys, we've won. Doesn't matter.
2 out of 3 here in Philly.
2 out of 3 here.
Both times.
But it didn't matter where we were going to go. It was my point. We have won. And we've beat that team, and they know that. For me as a manager, trying to stay as consistent as I could through that stretch, and the messaging. I never try to give them any peaks and valleys. I never try to react in the dugout. The only time I would react is if I got caught off guard and I didn't do something to prepare them for a situation.
Were there moments like that? Did you have a couple of those?
There was a couple moments where, like, I didn't intentionally walk somebody, even though if you ask analytics, you do not intentionally walk certain guys. There was but there are times that I should not have and I did, or maybe I went against analytics and it backfired. Or maybe I did, whatever it was, right? So it wasn't lack of preparation. It was just a couple things sped up on me a little quick during certain times, and I learned from it. And it didn't happen a ton, but it did happen. And so I learned from it and hopefully grew from it.
Last one for you, Skip. I know you got to run and take ground balls here. You've been pretty unemotional and stoic at times throughout the season, and I think that's a mark of a great manager, and the players see that you're even-keeled no matter what. You said the other night when you guys clinched in Pittsburgh, you felt like a proud dad. I know it all ratchets up tomorrow, but have you allowed yourself over the last 24 to 48 hours to really let it sink in, or ask yourself or think to yourself how proud you are of what this team that nobody wanted to give a chance has accomplished this year?
It's funny you say that about like being a proud dad. So when I coached my kids, if they made a mistake, who they would look first at for a reaction was me. And if I gave them a reaction, it would make them feel worse. And so I've always thought about that. Like, even if I manage, I cannot show a reaction because then they will start reacting.
Is that tough?
Yeah, I mean, more for my kids. Yeah, I mean, think about it. So we had a really the flight the other day was like tough to get out of, right? Like we were bouncing up and down. It wasn't easy. if you look in the cockpit, those guys were like having a drink of water. It was no big deal, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, you guys were in the back,
We're in the back.
right?
You gotta
But
let us know.
they were like nothing, no issues
Even
at
keel.
all.
Yep.
Drinking whatever they were drinking. Hopefully not.
Hopefully water.
Right, yeah.
Hopefully water.
My point is, if they grabbed the mask and put it on and just buckled up, you would be like, oh my gosh, we got to buckle up. Here we go. That's the same type of mentality I think about when
Great
I'm in the
point.
dugout, right? It's like if there's turbulent times going out there, they're going to look at you, and if you make a mound visit and they sense some panic in their so-called leader, what's going to happen, right? So you always have to be like, even keel. This is the situation. You've prepared for it. Everything's going to be okay. So I feel like that's going to be the same thing. There's going to be some tough plays or whatever, some tough pitches that maybe we want back, but we have to stay as even keel as you can.
Skip, thank you so much for the time. I know we're all really appreciative. Thank you again, as always, and we'll chat soon. Good
Yeah,
luck.
you guys have been awesome all year, for real. Like, whatever happens, following you guys on Twitter and your reactions when we score and everything, for real. No, it's cool to have like that much support from you guys, and my family follows you guys, as well. So it's been pretty special.
PR said
Thank
we'll
you.
get you for 2 winnings, 50 and the 6 tomorrow. So just be ready. We'll get you far in this game.
I
Good
don't
luck.
love you guys
He
that
doesn't
much.
love